Kit, welcome to the Lead, Learn, Grow podcast.
Thanks, Robin. Glad to be here.
Well, I've been looking forward to this. I gave a little bit of your background in the
Mhm.
intro. Been thinking about where should we start with Kit Moore? There's so many interesting things that you have experienced and done. So here's what we're going to do. Take me back to the little college in Farmville,
Mhm.
and you were majoring in religious studies.
Mhm.
I know you have an interest in philosophy and deeper things. What in the world did you imagine that you might be doing 10 years later, and how close or how far from that picture are you today?
Well, I've never been one that had the 20-year, this is what my life is going to look like. So, um, I guess I benefit from that. A lot of times those things don't come to fruition. But so I think I in college, I was just trying to be attuned to kind of what gripped me and and I had a really good professor in the religious program that really just inspired me. And for me, what inspired me about studying religion specifically was a lot of other disciplines I found was focusing on like what you're doing on to do. And the nature of religious studies is the focusing on become and what are you becoming. And I guess at that time in my life, especially, it was a big question for me, like who am I going to be when I grow up? I still ask that question, but but I think that I just leaned into that, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so to speak. The do question wasn't really the main driver. It was the become question, and that's actually why I went off the seminary afterwards. My professor, my mentor at the time, he said, you could do this, and I think you'd be a great fit at Princeton. And I thought, really? All right, let's go. And so for me, it was the main thing was becoming. And while I was, in seminary, I did have to think, well, what do I want to do?
So, so then take us a little further. So I think you were at is it Princeton Theological Seminary?
Mhm.
And is that
Yeah,
like Princeton, New Jersey?
Princeton, New Jersey. Yeah,
So that's
yeah, yeah,
Princeton.
yeah,
So
yeah.
historic, esteemed. So tell us what that was like. Keep going on that path.
It was great. It was great. The it was a big discernment time for me, of continuing to lean in, and I felt like a continuation, the becoming, we'll call it the becoming.
Yeah.
It felt like a continuation of that. Um, and it was an honor. I think it was just like a big privilege that not a lot of people have, just to like dedicate a portion of their life to that endeavor and to do it with people who are also kind of interested in that, so to walk alongside. So I was able to meet a good friend, good guys group friend, and they've been thus far like lifelong friends. And so it was a special and informative time. And I think the figuring out what I'm going to do with all this, it took a lot of that's when things got a little bit, I guess, uh, difficult to pinpoint. So if you have a degree in religion, and you have a master's in divinity, there's not a lot of things that one associates with those two directions. The two main ones are academia, like become a college professor, and the second one would be, become a clergyman. Now, so I thought, well, I'm on this path, I'm leaning in, it feels good. So I figured maybe I'll just dip my toe in both trajectories and kind of see what it is. And the thing about the academia, and I should caveat that I got married in seminary, and so this was not, my life decisions didn't just affect a solo guy going out into the wilderness, it affected it affected another human being, a family, and who may not have wanted to just go into.
They were
And
more do oriented, perhaps.
yeah, I need some do partner. So, but so anyway, so we I looked at both pathways and I started both pathways, and I was considering going on for my PhD in, and I even like identified this is what I would study. But the thing about the if you look at academic programs and you're going to just think about this from a business perspective, and you're like, I got a finite amount of funds, okay, and I'm going to cut one program. What's it going to be? It's not going to be the science program. It's going to be religious program. That's what's getting the axe. Maybe, classics had a little bit of a little reboot as of late, but like the religion program, there's a lot of people that have PhDs that don't have jobs. And just the context, so like a master's is a 3-year program. If I wanted to get a PhD, it'd be like 5 more years. So we're talking like 8 years, let's sometimes 9 years of like
Wow.
post college of study. And like in that study, you're studying ancient languages that nobody speaks. It's quite involved. And so I was talking to my mentor from him in Sydney, where I went to college, and he said, this is true. And if you get a job in academia, you're probably going to hang on to it. You probably, there's not in religion. So you got a guy or a gal like lands a job at Duke, and then maybe they'll stick around Duke for like 20 years. So there's a lot more people than jobs, and a lot of people that have like the same qualifications. And so what he said was, if you wanted to do that, you'd have to be okay going through that, taking your wife through that, and not getting a job at the end of the day. And you'd have to be at peace with that on the front end. And if you are, and you feel enough conviction to just go for it, like this is it, then you should do it. But if not, then you shouldn't. And and I knew better to even ask my wife Libby whether or not I was like, do you want to go another 5 years? Let's go.
Yeah.
And also, I just, I didn't really feel the pull to do it.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, if it's just that I can read books by myself, it's just I don't have to stop reading. I could keep doing that. So I decided, and actually, to be honest, I loved the learning and becoming, as I was saying, but I didn't necessarily love the things that are involved with a job as a professor. Like even the art form of writing, you know, like research papers, I found less attractive than than other creative avenues. I would much be more interested in writing, taking that and making a song, or doing something else.
Mhm.
So and the other avenue, so that kind of I decided I wasn't going to go through that avenue. The other avenue is do you want to hear all this? Am I going on too long?
No, no,
Okay,
this is
so
good.
all right, so the other avenue you can go down is the clergyman. So there's an academic sort of like credential that's required, and then there's also like ordination process that various, you know, religious groups have, and
Hmm.
each different, religious community has a different process. So I started the process, and um, just to make a long story short, it just wasn't right. It just wasn't right. It kind it felt so. I'll say this. We can unpack if you want to, but we don't have to. But essentially, what it came down to is I have a very eclectic background, and I knew what I needed to say to get through the ordination process, but it didn't feel honest.
Hmm.
And so I kind of felt like, well, this whole path only really matters if it's real to you. And if I started off doing something that I don't think is real, if I'm not 100% authentic, then what am I doing? Like this doesn't even matter. So, um I felt like I wasn't going to say what I needed to say to jump through the hoop I needed to jump through. I was, I just wasn't going to do it. And so we had a bit of a disagreement on some matters. And I kind of just said, you know, forget it. Let's go have another adventure. And I left both those pathways because I discerned I wasn't ready to compromise my a value to go down the clergy route, and wasn't willing to just do it just to do it, and felt like that really wasn't fair from a marriage perspective. And
Hmm.
so what, like, my religious education didn't bring me to my career, so to speak, but it did shape me in who I was.
Yeah, so I have a feeling that the next chapter is going to be more interesting than that because at some point, I don't know if it was immediately after, but at some point, you become a professional musician.
Yeah. Well, I did what everybody does, and
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious next
just
step, right? You
yeah,
decide not to go into the clergy, so you play the banjo professionally. Makes total
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So, talk about that.
Well, so it was always something looming. I had been a athlete growing up. I was a wrestler, and I had an injury, and um, that got me into music, and so I pivoted and really became hyper passionate about playing music. And I even thought about majoring in music and just right out of high school, just going for it. And then I thought, you know, I don't know if I want my writing level to be at high school senior. Maybe I can do better. I can
Mhm,
keep playing. And so it was always there. And even after college, I even thought, well, hey, maybe I should just go out to Nashville now, uh,
mhm.
while I'm young and wild and free. But then I had the opportunity to study at Princeton. I was like, well, you probably don't get that opportunity very often. I might as well just, I'm not probably going to go. Most people don't go back. But I
Mhm.
mean, I'm already in the grind. Like I might as well go for it while I'm used to it. And so I just went for it. But then when those doors closed, I'm like, well, what are we going to do now? It's like, let's go. Nashville. So my wife's a dietitian, Libby, and so she can work anywhere there's a hospital. She much preferred the idea of living in Nashville than living in New Jersey. Um, no offense to New Jersey, just Nashville's a cool city. And so she was able to get a job at Vanderbilt, and then I jumped into that music world. So yeah, so do you want to hear about the music stuff?
Yeah, so you go with the intent purpose of becoming what? Like a um, what is it? Is it like a backup? Is it a stage? Is it like a union thing?
Oh, yeah. So,
Like,
so okay. There's three things you can do. I was just kind of I was just doing it
yeah.
live, just jumping in. There's three things you can do in music that I found that I was able to do. So, like, one is you can be like a hired gun, and what that means, like, I show up and I meet a person. They're like a singer, and they're trying to put together a band and put on a tour or something. And so they hire someone that plays the banjo, like me, to learn their songs and then to perform with them and stuff. So that's like
Okay.
a hired gun.
Okay.
That was my least favorite,
Okay.
um, because it lacked a certain amount of. You're just kind of doing what they want. It's like
Hmm.
this is what you want. Here you go. Boop. There you go.
Hmm.
And then I can dance around on stage and make it look fun and have some fun with it. So I really was drawn more to things that I found were like kind of like fed my creativity side. So there's also you can create your own project, which I did. I created a project with a group of guys that I met through just networking and stuff. And but the thing about like artists is like it's just like lots of drama. There's a reason why bands break up. You know, artists are eccentric people, and you put like there's not like I need. It's good to have like balance and like you have like counterweights and stuff. So I don't know. It's just a. It was difficult to maintain like a. You got to run your band like a business, and
Hmm.
everyone's artistic. So if you have like the artistic person on your team, and you're like, yeah, well,
Hmm.
there's benefit from different personality types that don't
Hmm.
necessarily always are the stereotypical artists. So anyway, that didn't work out. Well, it was fun, but it just uh we broke up like many bands do.
Hmm.
And then I was able to do some studio work, which is I think was the most fun because like you're not on tour, you just like show up, you lay down the tracks, you go home. You're not out late at night, like it. Uh, you just like you go during the day, you lay it down, and then there's this creative element to it, and so for me, like I loved more the creative side than the performing side. And like some people, it's the opposite. They really like they feed off the energy from the crowd. Um, to me, like I really like meaning and the creative side like touches that for me and like taking things and making it felt like that was just more filling. So like to me, like playing for drunk people is just not as attractive. Uh, but I love having a good time. You know what I mean? So I like
Yeah.
going out and having a good time. But for me, like what I loved about music wasn't that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of fun. So like um, but what I found was it's like you have to pay like so when you are like maybe young without kids, like there's a lot of like glamour about that, the road and the glory that comes along with that, the the attention, you get popped on a pedestal, but it's also like a burden when you're like are in different phases of life. And so like I don't know. To me, like I was, you're out late playing at the bar instead of like hanging out with your family, and like so I don't know, I had a really good dad, and so like that was like the model of like dad that I had, and like so I kind of felt like there was like a tension between like my
Hmm.
vision about what dad meant and like the what I was kind of trying to do career wise, and and so I felt like I would every time I had opportunities, like I wasn't willing to make the sacrifice that you have to make it in that world.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I kind of came to a head when um like so right before my daughter was born, she I was trying to I was piecing what most people down in Nashville, as you imagine, there's a lot of really good players, and so a lot of there's a lot of musicians that are doing a lot of odd jobs because there's they're just trying to piece together money when things are like a little slower and stuff, and so anyway, I kind of felt, well, I got a daughter on the way. I feel like I need something more. I need to create a little bit of stability for my family, and so I found a job. Using my education, I got a job running the being a director of youth and children's ministry at a church, and it came to a head that I got a call to go on tour with a really, it was a really, for me, it was a big opportunity to jump on tour. And it was like this crossroads. It's like, well, you can go, and if you go on tour, it won't be the end all be all, but it's really going to open up a lot of doors for you, and who knows what's going to happen next. And there's one direction you could go, or you know you might you might be on the road when your daughter's like learning to walk and stuff. But you go this way, and you can be around for that. And so I didn't want to miss my kids like first words, and if I
Yeah.
didn't have to, just to kind of like entertain. And
Yeah.
so for me, I leaned away from music professionally, um, and kind of so I started working in ministry. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember exactly who it was. You've told me snippets of this story before, but like it was like this opportunity to go on the road, it was not with, like a county fair performer. Like it was a
No,
national,
it was a real deal. It was a
yeah,
great opportunity.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
nationally known
Hmm.
star, rising star in country music. And that's one thing, and we'll pivot because I want to get you to tie a couple things together. But so one of the things, Kit, that this is a podcast about leadership, and
Yeah.
I think the thing I've always I think admired about you over the years that we've worked together is you're very thoughtful, but your thoughtfulness is rooted in authenticity and um, in a certain way courage. Like you're not afraid, and it's really interesting to layer your story onto what I already knew. But both of those moves took a lot of courage. Like you're on this academic slash clergy path. You've invested time and sweat and energy, and you said, you know what? Authentically, I can't do it. So I'm going to go be a professional musician in Nashville. Like, of course. And then you're making your way, and you get probably certainly one of the biggest opportunities that came in front of you. You were obviously really good at what you were doing. And you think about your wife and your daughter, and boy, it would have been so much easier and cooler and more, impressive to other people to say, wow, that Kit Moore, you're not going to believe what he's doing now. Like he's out, and you said no to that. And I think as I've known you as a business leader, I can totally see that thread in
Mm.
how you've done things. So maybe talk about um, what what are the things that you learned in these very creative, I dare say, soulful type ventures that you've been able to carry over into really some remarkable success as a leader in the business world. Do you ever think about those connections consciously, or like what has that allowed you to do in the business world?
That's a big question. I am trying to don't tempt me, Robin. I
Red
think
meat. It's red meat.
I think well, I guess we could take it at a couple ways. Um well, and low hanging fruit, like one way to take it is I invested a lot in creativity, and so I was able to take the fruits of just nurturing that. I've been able to implement that in my business. Um, I think like the idea of like we mentioned like becoming like that's been really helpful for like coaching. It's also been really helpful for me thinking about like um how am I going to change our business and become more as a business and so like I always had this presupposition that I needed to become more and like me leading a team was not like do this, but it was like I got to take you, I got to grow you, and you have to become. And everyone's got their own path, everyone's got their own journey, but you have to become more. And so like I've always that's always impacted how I've like related to people on our team and how I've often kind of approached like the things that I would think to do. Like, what do I need to do? I need to get better. What do I need to do? I need to think about this differently. And so I think probably like my intuition is to do those two things. And I guess that probably carries over from having that experience earlier.
Yeah, and and the things that I've noticed that maybe make you different than maybe the average bear is you're really not afraid to think about things differently. Like we've had conversations about, I think back maybe a couple of years ago, where it was like, you didn't say it this way, but it was like, I think everything we're doing is wrong. I think
Yeah.
we've got a great product. We take care of customers, but the way we're thinking about this is I don't think we're even and so we've we've had a number of conversations
Yeah.
where it's like, I don't know that we're engaging with the right people, and I don't know if our message, and again, it takes, I mean, it's just a lot easier just to keep doing what you've been doing and hope. I mean, that's a
Mm,
lot easier. And it's sort of that pattern of learning, and maybe it's from studying religion, I don't know, but like
mm,
it's like the more you know and the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything.
mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just it's just big and it's daunting. And I think part of like a leader's maturity is actually understanding that they probably don't know nearly as much as they think they do, and the
Mhm.
humility to see something different. I think that's your gift as a leader. I've admired that. I've learned from you. I think
Mm.
in that area. Um, how do you think about um, how do you think about sales? Because a lot of
Mhm.
people listening to this are
Okay.
salespeople, sales leaders. So, what's been the biggest shift over the past several years in, um, you know, um, go back sort of at the beginning, how you thought about the art and craft and science of selling versus how you see it now. And let me give
Right.
one caveat for the listeners too, that'll maybe give you a little context. But you've sort of evolved from, you're always a leader in the company, but a lot, back in the day, it was you doing everything related to sales. I mean,
Mhm.
that's not 100% accurate, but it's close. And now your role has shifted more to where you are developing
Mhm.
salespeople and you're overseeing the
Mhm.
strategy. And so talk about how you saw it before and maybe how that's evolved and changed.
Yeah. Well, so we were it's gone through many iterations. So one our company was founded by engineers. And it's really interesting how like whatever sort of mindset you bring into it, it just kind of overflows in how you see everything. It's like a lens by which you see everything. So engineers by nature, they make stuff, they design stuff, and they make stuff. And so it was interesting. So the belief was, hey, if we just make something really good, it's like you'd be an idiot not to like buy it. Like, what are you thinking? This is the best. What are you
Right.
doing?
Right.
Like, and what was interesting is we even found her, so we develop new products. We have a very well, we're an innovator in our industry, but in our early years, we thought, oh, selling. We didn't think of selling as a craft in and of itself. It's like, so we would find ourselves in conversations with large companies who are like, oh, they got this problem. Let's innovate. Let's innovate. Instead of like, let's walk you through a decision-making process. Let's just design a whole new product. Let's go. Okay, we'll knock it out. And we sometimes would, and sometimes it would be great, and sometimes it wouldn't be great. But it was interesting how we started with like it was very engineer centric. And it was just if it's the best design, you're gonna buy it. Of course, why not? Um so that was one paradigm.
Hmm.
And then as we talked more and more, we realized, well, there's more to it. There was also this paradigm, well, if it's just a price thing, if you just have enough money, you're gonna buy the thing that makes the most sense. Of course, why not? Um, but then you saw people spending money in ways that didn't make sense. And that really challenged that. That really challenges that paradigm. um, and I think, what I started, excuse me, what I started realizing that there's a game and a craft and an art, and there's actually like games inside games. So like I remember being at an industry event, uh, and there's a guy he's like a director or VP level at a large organization, and I remember watching him interact with in this public forum, and the way the questions he was asking, and he was like shaping the whole room with what he was doing. And I saw this other guy and this guy was happened to be a manufacturer. And I saw another manufacturer who was shamelessly just plugging his product. And I thought, he's doing something quite different here. They're not doing the same thing. and and then as I started looking more and more, like I started noticing, if you're a distributor, like if you're a reseller, the game that you play between manufacturer and between end user is not the same game that a manufacturer who's trying to build a market with a new product is doing. It's not the same game at all. And so like I started thinking, well, what game am I playing? And how do I play it right? And what's a framework for how I need to be playing this thing? Because I'm clearly not playing it right because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of feeling around. And so I think like what, working with you has really been great is it's provided like a framework and like a language to think about stuff. And really it's interesting. I think it really comes down to, well, we could go pretty deep on it, but I think that ultimately the way I think about sales is it's a trade. And I think that it's easy to kind of like um I think it's pretty deep, like primally. It's probably it's probably one reason we're still alive. Trade. And it's really deep, I think. And if you think about it, like it was a premise for is a reason why you could share resources. One tribe could share resources with another tribe. But it was also like a precondition for peace. You weren't killing each other because you were like, so there's something very like bonding, and there's something very netted, like based in like survival and expansion of resources that's like baked into us. It's also like the fundamental thing about what keeps our economy going is trading. And so like I think it's really ironic, just as a little tangent, but I think it's really ironic when like certain niche professions, whether it's I'm in operations or engineering, they're hating on sales,
Right.
when the reason that there is an engineering job is because you're engineering for what? For what?
Right.
There's a trade, and it's the foundation of the whole economy is trade. And you can hate on trade, but but I mean, you're hating on a lot of things that come with it, including like foundations for peace and expansion of resources. And so be careful about judging it too hard. But I think that the fact that it is a trade and it's deep is one thing I think about. And the other thing I think about is it's not my decision. It's their decision to trade their resources. And so like I've noticed like whenever anyone's salesy, salesy, they get that wrong. Like if I believe that I can force, if I'm trying to force you to do something, absent physical force, I can do different things. And so like one thing I could do is I could lie, so I could manipulate. That's one stereotype of a salesperson is they're not trustworthy. Because
Right.
what I believe is I can make you do what I want you to do through manipulation. And it doesn't have to be direct lying. It could just be I can just push you, and I just manipulate the word. But another aspect is uh just kind of like a blunt force. Like I get you on the phone, and I'm not going to let you off the phone until I hammer this at you. And I can use like blunt force by just like pressure. Like I'm uncomfortable because of the amount of pressure you give me, and then I just submit. Or I can use pressure like with argumentation. I'm going to take this. This is the best argument, and I'm going to thrust it upon you, and you cannot say no to it. Because I have the power of this amazing argument. And that both those are both like, they yield like these well-earned, like bad stereotypes of salespeople. And they both operate under the premise that I can control someone else. And I'm just going to use these tactics, whether it's blunt force, direct, or whether it's coercion. And but if you switch your paradigm and say, I can't control what anyone does. And if you switch that, then all of a sudden a different game kind of unfolds. It's not an act of domination, or manipulation. It's one of
Mhm.
cooperation fundamentally.
Mhm.
And so I think, what is this dance? And I and so that's been a big paradigm shift. And then the other aspect alongside that, do you are we going too
No,
deep? You want to?
no,
Okay.
you're doing great.
Okay. The other aspect I think a lot about is I think just using a metaphor, I think of energy.
Hmm.
Um, and so like, uh, what am I doing with my energy in this dance and this cooperative act? Because when I'm bad on energy, like, and by energy I'm using it in a kind of a vague way, I guess, a little bit, but bear with me. So I think when I'm bad on energy, it's felt. You feel it. Like you're on a call, um, and you want to get off, but you can't. And that feeling of I want to get off, that's what I mean. That's bad energy. My energy's off. And
Hmm.
so like if I think that they have to cooperate, then I have to like set like a scene. So like if I would come up, I think about this with like prospecting. Like if I want to introduce myself to a new tribe, and
Hmm.
then that I want to see, do we want to trade with each other? Can we trust each other enough to trade? Can we um do we have something that of value that each of us can exchange? It's like it's almost like there's this, I'm going to come in, step into the light, but I'm also going to stop. I'm going to pull back a little bit, because if I just come into the light, hey, you know what I mean? Like you feel the energy, and then I'm going to run away because it's like the barbarians, they're coming, they're invading. And versus like I step in and I pull it back. And it's like, who's that? There's a, for instance, there's a scene. I don't know if you've seen the 13th Warrior. It was like it's based off of Beowulf. Michael Crichton wrote a book on it, and they made it into a movie with Antonio Banderas. But there's a great scene in it where Antonio Banderas is an ambassador, and he comes across these Vikings, and he doesn't understand them, and all of a sudden he wakes up in the morning, and there's this kid on a ship just standing, and he goes, "Why is that boy standing out there?" And the guy said, "Well, he's letting them see him." And Antonio Banderas says, "In plain sight." And he said, "Well, they don't know what they see is real. Something about the mist. The boy was being polite." And so
Mhm.
there's something like danger comes from the mist, from the unknown, from the outskirts, from outside the tribe. And it's just like there's a way of revealing yourself that doesn't put the pressure on, that allows that gives them the space to, I will engage now. And so
Mhm.
like it's fine. Like I think about it as like where are the little places that they have to lean in? And really like zeroing in. Um, I think that that's a lot of the work that we do in like our companies. Like, where do we zero in here, and then how do you stand in the light so they can come in, and then so like as I think about the craft of sale, I think about energy, and I think about really emphasizing this is if it's really not my decision to trade their stuff. In this case, we have a product, they have money, but it's a trade fundamentally.
Mhm.
We're both valuable for having done the business. We have more value based on the exchange that we did otherwise. Um,
Mhm.
those are some of the frameworks that I think have changed a lot for me.
Yeah, so I can imagine. So I can imagine like Sandler probably spoke to you in a different way because I mean that's a lot of like, traditional sales is about, all the stuff that, stereotypical, the reason people hate on salespeople and
Yeah.
look, most, I shouldn't say this. I'm going to. I mean, most salespeople, frankly, are mediocre because they're just going on, not mediocre people, not, fine people doing the best they can. And by the way, I did it this way too before
Mm,
I knew. But you just do it the best you can. And when you sell on when you look at sales and you perform it in an instinctual way, it's almost always wrong
mm,
because you have this voice that says, well, I need you to like me. I need you to approve of me. I need you to acknowledge me. And it just gets warped. The relation, like, sort of that you described, like in the light and then step back. I just think we invariably make people uncomfortable.
mm,
Uh, and uh, so I think, and then I think about like what you're calling energy I might call presence. It's probably the
mm,
same thing. So it's
mm,
like, do I show up as a friendly peddler,
mm,
a Mr. Haney type character, the old television show Green Acres,
mm,
or do I show up as a professional, adult to adult, someone that can help make your life better, someone who can help remove problems. And I think, so I do think like sales is a science. Like in any, I think reasonably, it's fair to say that anybody can learn to be good at it. Um, and I love a lot just what you said. I mean, it's there's a lot to that, and I hope folks can take something from that. Just the need to study your craft and to think about your craft and to figure out, like you said, what game am I even playing? Like, what's the game? Because we're all playing games.
mm,
What's the game we're playing, and what's the game we need to play?
mm,
I love that. So, talk about what are some of the what are some of the challenges in, it's going to be a very generic question. It's going to drive you crazy. Okay, let me try. So what are some of the challenges? So I want you to talk a little bit about scaling the business
Mm,
because you have been in scaling mode
yeah.
for a long time.
Mhm.
So if let's do it this way, Kit. If
Okay.
you were going to counsel someone,
Mhm.
mentor someone, and they come to you and they say, "Hey, we want to scale. We want a 5x, we want a 10x." What are some things that are fundamental to that? What are some things that maybe we should think about? Does that trigger any thoughts?
Yeah, a lot. Um, so let's see. Let me bucket wise. There's a like scaling holistically is one thing that comes to mind. We could drop into that. And then well, let's drop there first. I have another brilliant thought, I'm sure, but escaped my mind. Um, so I think it's easy to think very um, there's many dynamics that make a company, and one of them is your just the revenue in. But there's a lot of other factors that you need to consider, and so like you have to ask yourselves like, well, how do we want to scale our culture? Not just scaling our revenue. Um, I'll give you an example, and you also have to realize like, or at least this was our experience, what makes sense for you at this level does not make sense at this level.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to be the same. Like your job can't be the same. You're probably going to be changed, hopefully for the good. Your company's not going to be the same. And so like for instance, organizationally, like I've come into my company, we're like super flat in terms of like there's no hierarchy. Like you just run in there, we're like figuring it all out. Yeah, we'll just run. Let's go. My first day on the job, like I just jumped on an airplane and I just landed at a trade show. I didn't even know anything. I'm just like walking around. All right. I hadn't met anyone. But like as you if you have you can't have not flat doesn't scale but so much. You got to have some sort of, if it's flat, it's by definition no leadership. you know who's following who, and if there's no leadership, you're like so you have to have, if you want to unite the clans and you want to like really kind of like be precise, and the best you can be is like a great team, like you have to have some leadership. and and if you're leading just yourself, or you and a couple of your buddies, that's one thing. But if you're leading layers of hierarchy, that's something else. And you really like and what made like small group cohesive and have certain values that you liked and have a certain tone, and it was great. uh if you want to keep certain elements of that, maybe you can't keep all of it. But if you want to keep certain elements, you really have to be intentional about how you want to do that. How are you going to impart things? How are you going to like maintain, by definite, cohesion? How are you going to keep that all together? Not just like revenue, but you got to be like working on yourself and working as yourself, or maybe that's what, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like you really have to be intentional about that. And also like I think about, so in I don't know if this is a great metaphor, but it's one I think about, like in singing, when you're there's something called vowel shaping. Okay, so as you're like changing the how high pitch you're going, if you're listening closely, people are playing with the vowels. They might make them smaller. They might shade in a little bit of make them a little darker, make them a little pingier. But one thing you'll notice is people go up in their register, the sound gets a little thinner because they can't bring as much weight up, you
Hmm.
know? And so this was something I kind of had to like I had like some head trash about, but like, you know, if you're like the first person on the scene, like I'm doing everything, and so much of your job is operational in notion.
Hmm.
Well, if you're gonna like adapt, if you're really gonna invest strategically, if you're gonna really invest in cultivating a certain thing at the company, then you have to drop some of the weight, and that's okay. So like I think in my mind, like the guys that were or gals, you know, that the tip top, and they're like I remember, for instance, I listened to a podcast and Jeff Bezos saying this is my morning routine, and he said, I wake up and I like to putter around. It's like what are you doing? Like how are you like rocking out at the like high level and just puttering around in your bathrobe? Like what's going on here? But like you have to shed weight. You got to take the weight. Like you can't do everything if you're going to scale. You have to reimagine like what is your job going to need to be, and it's not actually always clear. Like if you're leading the charge, right? It's not clear. No one's telling you what your job needs to be. Like, you need to figure it out. Like you have to reflect on like where's the opportunity, what's the need. Okay, what do I have to work with? Okay, and then what do I need to do to invest in myself to become this? And so I think like scaling is not just like numbers in terms of like, hey, I got to get more revenue in, let's order more material and we'll build more, we'll hire more people and it is that like we're a manufacturer, so we got to think about like capital. You got enough capital to buy machines, you got enough capital, yeah, that's real. um,
Hmm.
but there's also I feel like that's a little bit more intuitive for people, at least in that run in my circles. But it's not intuitive to say like, remember who you are, remember what got you here.
Hmm.
Do you want to be you want to grow into someone you want to be, you know? And so those are some things I think about with scaling.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things to tag in, and then we'll start to wrap up. We should just went straight like Joe Rogan long form and just do like 4 hours. You know what? I think we could. I don't think we would have any trouble. But I read a book, Kit. You might. I don't. Maybe you've read it. You might take something from it. Benjamin Hardy. Um, and Dan, well, I can't think of his name. He's the founder and owner of Strategic Coach, Dan something.
Mhm.
And the book is called 10X, some version of 10X and 2X. I'll put it in the show notes. But like 10X is easier than 2X. And
Mhm.
as I hear you talk about that, like I think what you're saying is really important. Like, yeah, you can, when we set scaling goals, we can say, okay, we're going to grow, we're going to set a stretch goal, and we order more stuff, we work harder, we go to more trade shows, we hire another person, we just work harder and we can get there.
Mhm.
And I'm maybe not doing the points of the book justice, but the takeaway from that is, yeah, you can incrementally grow, but that's going to come at a cost. But he said you can also, if you think 10x and you put a deadline on it and you say that, you know what, we're gonna triple in size in the next 5 years, and then you snicker because no one believes you, including yourself.
Mhm.
But then your brain activates, and then you start thinking, well, if we were going to do that, what would have to happen? And then
Mhm.
you start thinking a little more about, you know, what are the things that aren't serving us and what are the ways we're doing it now? And maybe we need, if we were going to get to 10x, we need to do it completely differently. And it's
Mm,
sort of that tug between transformation and incremental growth.
mm,
And I think I think that's I think that's been a lot of maybe your journey, even subconsciously, is not being afraid to have the courage to say, you know what if we just sort of blew up parts of it and really thought about this in a different way? Because you're right, like a flat organization, like that sounds cool. It's almost like a sacred cow. Like we just
mm,
think of that as, oh, that's awesome, flat
mm,
organization. But if there's not a lead, like you can't, it's hard to scale. I don't know if you can scale a flat organization. Like I don't
mm.
think you can because somebody has to be the architect.
Yeah,
Somebody has to build the scaffolding. Somebody has to build the processes and
yeah,
say, here's how we do things because we can only get so big. So I love what you said. Um, Let me ask you one more question, and then I'm going to have
yeah,
you tell us a little bit about damage prevention solutions.
yeah.
Um, what I know you're a learner because
Okay.
you said that you can still read the books, right? You didn't have to pay the tuition. You can still read the books. What's
Yeah.
what are some books that you recommend to others?
Ooh. Well, for any topic in particular, or just business books, or just
Um, Give me a business book and then give me just like your favorite, like from your heart, like books that you have gifted or recommended, or even your favorite books. Take it however you want to take it.
all right, sure. Well, so just full disclosure, I'm a really slow reader. Like I've like what I find is like I know I'm not like this. So for me, my strategy is all right. I'm gonna pick some. I'm like quality over quantity, just because I'm not maybe as fast as some. And so like I like to really, I'm like gonna labor over a book, and like I'm gonna take note. Like if it's a book that I'm reading to learn, I want to know it. And so like I like what I'll do is I like take notes on a book that I really want to learn. And then I want the notes to be so good that I could read the notes and I got the whole book
Yeah.
in my head. And then I can actually take that book and I can implement it. Because the way I always thought about it was like this book probably was like a lifetime's worth of knowledge
Yeah.
packaged in. And if you really integrated it. So like given my slowness of reading, I just take that philosophy.
Yeah.
But so um, I really I don't know. I really like towards a I mean you've sent me like a lot of stuff that I took that I liked a lot. What'd you do for me? Mm, This one was really great.
What is that one?
You sent me this one.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah.
sales coach playbook.
Yeah.
I poured over that pretty deep
Yeah.
as a business one. I don't know. I try to read something like the heavy theological or philosophical.
Mhm.
I'm really into Eastern Orthodox theology, and
Mhm.
so John D. And I'm interested in the idea of ontology, and so I read a lot of John D. Zazoulis. But it's funny about him is like it's the English, like if you talk to someone who speaks English, like we're like rapid fires, like bite size, one sentence, one idea.
Mhm.
But like this guy, he's not a native English speaker. So the translator is like, I got a paragraph and it's one sentence. And I'm like trying to draw a picture. What's this guy talking about? But
Yeah.
I really I don't know. I really like reading I don't know. Sometimes if I just find if I read into like something at that level, connections just happen.
Yeah.
Um, I also, if it's a particular topic I'm interested in, so like I'll just grab that and just like plow through it.
Yeah.
for instance, I was really interested. Do you want me to stop?
Hmm.
Yes.
Keep going.
Oh, okay. I was really interested in I got really obsessed. I think I was talking about this about productivity.
Yes.
And yeah, hey, you want to hear this thought? I landed on someplace on this. You want to hear this?
No, I can't wait.
Okay. So, all right. So I read a bunch of stuff on productivity. I read a couple books by like the GTD, Getting Things Done.
Yep. Yep.
Who was it Cam someone? He's like I think he's up in George I think he's a George Mason or something. He's like
Mhm.
the deep thinking guy.
Yeah,
He talks
yeah.
about like blocking out
Cal Newport.
Cal.
Yeah.
Cal, yeah.
Yeah.
Who could forget Cal? Sorry, Cal. um, but anyway, like it was funny because I was thinking about this as I'm like reading it, and I had like a lot of like head trash about like productivity and like I gotta do more, I gotta do more. And like I just my vision of productivity, and maybe I was like inserting this into all the stuff I was reading, but it almost like sounded like a type A person. Like it's like the stereotype productivity person is like, I got my pencils all on the row and they're really neat, and then I got my calendar and it's all
Yeah.
set up, and it's like, and I was like, and look at my calendar, like it's all like every single square inch is all set up. And I remember you pointing out like you're still a human, you're not a machine, and if you go too far in any direction, it's not a healthy thing.
Mhm.
But what I landed on, like on this, was after kind of wrestling and arguing with all these guys and their books. They didn't care what I had to say, but I was letting them have it. Like what I started like realizing was, it's really funny to me that the stereotype of productivity is this type A person, and the total opposite of that is a creative person. Like what's the creative, he's like disheveled, like this is he's the
Mhm.
crazy artist. He's like he can't keep track of his shoes. He's like, he's just like all over the map. It's like that guy's not productive. And then it's like, well, what did you just call him? You called him a creative person. By definition, he's producing. We use the term reproduce, this
Yeah.
creation. And it's like, I thought it was really ironic that like we had this concept of productivity that was the antithesis of our conception of creativity, of the person that embodies like creativity. I was like, well, how can this be? Like, what are we talking about here? And I was like, you know what? I am not an organized person like a type. I'm not type A. I married one. At least she wouldn't say she is, but she's more than I. And I love the counterweight. But I do get stuff done. I mean, by definition. But maybe I just don't need to like do it with the tools of like that like thrive on no chaos. I like chaos a little bit. So like I actually designed my own productivity schedule, and I took what I did was I took um Ignatius of Loyola's. He does a spiritual direction in the Catholic Church. He was a Jesuit from
Mhm.
Spain, and so there's a whole like there's like Ignatian retreats that the Catholics do. And the spiritual direction world is pretty big, but I kind of
Mhm.
like blended that with um how like uh, my creative process, and then I implemented in like, well, let me get stuff done in my job. So, and then I drew a picture. Let me show you this. And I put it on my wall. And I was like, this is how I get it done. And so,
Oh, that's good.
and
Why
so
don't you
like,
snap a picture of that and text it to me? I want to see that.
I
Yeah,
will.
I want to see that.
So,
Yeah, well, I mean, so you've taken like two thoughts and as a learner, as a creative, kind of created something new. Like that's cool. I'm not surprised. Of course, that's where you landed. Of course, that's where you landed. But it's a little bit like I love the. I think the take home is, uh, just the importance of being a learner, right? I don't know, and people are wired differently, and I certainly don't think about the world in the correct way, but I just don't know how you can lead other people or lead a business, and whether you're doing like I just don't know how you can do it without freshening your learning and your knowledge. And like, like reading, I'm looking at my desk and I've got like Epictetus discourses. I've got over here on the other side is the Confessions, St. Augustine. And I learn more over the years. It hadn't always been this way, but I learn more things about business and things that help me because I already swim in this other world over here.
Mm,
This is like a really different world. And then
mm,
the words are different, the ideas are different, but it's like the connections just, you're like, oh, okay, you know what? That's like when, and it's just, it's an, it's a, it's a fun, it's a fun journey to be on.
mm,
I can't tell you how many, I mean, it doesn't happen every week, but like ideas that I get for classes or for little, little one-liners and little quips and little pieces come from reading stuff that has nothing to do with sales.
mm.
Uh, I think you've been a good example of that. All right, Kit,
Okay.
tell us about your company, what you guys do, where you're, just give us the rundown on DPS.
All right. So it's a niche market. So I'm gonna pretend like the person listening knows zero about it. So like look outside what do you see? If let's imagine you see just streets, or if you imagine you see grass, uh, that is what oftentimes people think. But below that
Mm,
is the infrastructure of our country, and so the you're under below that are all the the water lines and the sewer lines and the electric lines and the internet lines and the gas lines, and all that is out of sight and oftentimes out of mind. And so I'm in a company that is in the damage prevention industry. And what that word means is when people are digging, whether like a homeowner, like you're planting a tree, um, there's a safe way to dig so that you don't hit those lines down below. So I would be remiss not to wave the flag for my industry. You should call 811 before you dig. But essentially that's what damage prevention is. It's protecting all the infrastructure of our society from getting hit when people are digging around it. The reason that's a big deal is that if you hit a high pressure water line, it could create a sinkhole and like collapse the whole street. Hit a gas line, it could be an explosion. If you knock out the internet for a hospital or a airport, that's a big deal. So essentially, or high pressure sewer line, you have an environmental disaster on your hands. So essentially, the industry is about keeping those things safe when we're doing construction around it. And so our company, Damage Prevention Solutions, we invent and we build, we're a manufacturer, we build products that the utility would design into their new constructions to keep their lines safe, so that are they're not putting the public at risk. They're also guarding against lawsuits, insurance, all those things. But so that's kind of the space that we play in.
yeah. And you guys are based in Charlottesville.
Yeah, our business office is in Charlottesville, and then our manufacturing facilities in Forest, Virginia, like the Lynchburg area.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the Lord's work. Keep up the good. No, it really is. It really, I mean, it's just one of those things that you're like, yeah, you know what? Never really, like when we first met,
Mhm.
and one of the fun things about my job is you get a chance to learn about different industries. And it's like, who knew? But yeah, exactly. Like, oh my gosh, that's like, I didn't even know the industry existed beyond, call 811 before you dig. And you guys have a very innovative, cutting edge solution that most people don't even think about, unless you're in that industry. And really, really proud of you, Kit. You've
Well,
done some
thanks.
amazing things. Your people that you've brought onto your team, you've helped them immensely. They admire, respect you. You've not only helped yourself, but you've helped a lot of other people, and it's really been a real pleasure, joy, being a partner with you over the years. And like I said, we could have gone on and on, man. We could have went
Yes.
the rest of the day, but we got to get to it. But thank you for coming on. And
Well, thanks for having me. Like, and right back at you. It's been fun. I've enjoyed our partnership.
yeah, okay, Kit. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care.
See you.